Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Strong Stoic Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Tumblin. You may consider your body to be yours, but the Stoics had a different perspective on this. It is yours in a sense, of course. It's your body, as it constitutes a part of you, so of course it's yours, right? At the same time, making the mind strong is what Stoicism is all about, making the mind strong. In fact, you could look at many of the Stoic doctrines as a kind of rebellion against the body. If you would like to support this podcast, consider checking out my Patreon at brandontumblin.com, or actually it's, Patreon, but you can find me there at Brandon Tumblin. Would love to see you there. I also offer my philosophical mentoring courses on there if you would like to check that out. Consider joining my Telegram group chat where you can join in on the discussion with other strong Stoics on the podcast episode topics. My articles you can find on Medium and the Stoic Gym magazine. Finally, consider checking out my newsletter at Substack. We must contend with bodily desires on a daily basis. The list is long. Hunger, thirst, lust, comfort, immediate joy, etc., etc. Let's break a few of those down. Hunger is a simple enough one. We become hungry when we do not eat, right? We all know that much. Sometimes if we overindulge regularly, we never stop becoming hungry. Just because you are hungry doesn't mean that you should eat after all, right? Thirst is similar in some ways, though normally you should drink when you are thirsty. However, that doesn't mean that you should drink 10 cups of coffee. That doesn't mean you should drink 18 bottles of beer, right? At least not all the time. Then there's lust. Everyone loves lust, right? We are all human at the end of the day, and we have raging hormones compelling us to spread our genes to the next generation. Comfort is a bit more of an abstract one because, well, it's that desire to stay under your bed sheets in the morning. It's the desire to stay warm. It's the desire to not want to go for a walk because it's cold outside. It's the desire to stay on the couch because you don't want to go to the gym and you're feeling lazy. It's often said that you need to, quote, quote, get out of your comfort zone to grow. And that seems to be true enough of a statement. This pull to comfort is not always a good thing. Normally it's not. Normally you have to fight that. Finally, there's the last one I mentioned there, immediate joy, which includes things like reaching for your phone to scroll through Instagram to give you a little dopamine hit when you get the urge. It also includes, it relates to comfort as well, because you can imagine that it feels pretty good when you're, sleeping in the morning and staying under the warm bed sheets. That's a comfort thing as well, and it also gives you immediate joy. Though it doesn't feel good when you wake up at 10 a.m. and you realize that you were 2 hours late for work. That's not a good thing. That doesn't feel too good. And this is far from an exhaustive list, but these are sort of some of the bodily desires that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But are bodily desires bad? They're not inherently bad. Hunger and thirst are very natural, of course, and we absolutely need to eat to live, and we need to drink water and other fluids regularly to live. However, what are you eating? How often are you eating? And is it controlling your life? That's really the question here. You can't help but be hungry sometimes. It's very natural. That's not evil. It's not an evil. But letting it control your life is an evil. Consider your skip the dishes order is running late, okay? We've all been there. You haven't eaten all day. You're hungry. You feel the hunger pains really kicking in. That is absolutely not a justification to be angry or hangry. It'll come soon enough. The food will be here. So take a deep breath, have some patience, it'll be fine. Some of our bodily desires are different though. The thing about hunger is that it is natural and satiable, meaning you can actually satiate your hunger. You can eat and then the desire goes away. That's a pretty good thing. This desire keeps you alive and well, even though it's not always accurate. Sometimes, again, you're hungry, but you probably shouldn't eat. If you ate every time you felt the urge to eat, you'd be really overweight. Lust, on the other hand, is not so much. You'll hear many rock stars and celebrities talk about how it doesn't matter how many people they sleep with, it'll never be enough. They could have a different person in their bed every night, but it's still not enough. And then you have the desire like comfort, staying comfortable. And this one gets complicated, staying in bed. Is it a vice to stay in bed when you must get up? Yes, absolutely. If you got work to do, if you got things to do, if you have duties, as you do because you're a Stoic, right? Yeah, it's a vice to sleep in past your due. But is choosing comfort always a vice? What about wearing comfortable clothes? What about watching a bit of television in the evening? Of course, these aren't vices when they're done in moderation. Discerning between what constitutes good and bad in terms of desires and which ones we should give into and which ones we should not give into, it really gets down to the definition of Stoicism in and of itself. You have to ask yourself this question. This is really what Stoicism is all about. Does giving into this desire improve my character? If it does, if it improves your character, then it's good. If it doesn't improve your character, then it is bad. Here are some examples. Giving into the temptation to stay under the bedsheets in the morning. I love that one. When you have to work and you're feeling warm and you just want to stay under the covers and you stay in bed, that is a vice. Sleeping in on a Sunday morning, however, when you've had a productive week and you got all your work done, that's not a vice. Moderation. You're allowed to sleep in on Sunday. You're allowed to sleep in every now and then. It's really okay. Can't do it all the time, but you can do it every now and then. Having ice cream as a staple in your diet. You have ice cream every day. You have it for breakfast. You have it for lunch. That is a vice. Gluttony. Sharing an ice cream with your friends every now and then, though, that is not a vice. Staying on the couch and watching television when you need to go to the gym is a vice. But watching an hour of television when you get back from the gym, it's not a vice. It's okay. Everything is okay in moderation. Does it contribute to a positive character or does it degrade your character? So context is important. No desire is inherently bad. It's just a matter of discerning whether or not it's going to positively affect your character or negatively affect your character. And note that moderation is a key theme here in all of these examples. And of course, moderation, that being temperance, is a very important virtue in Stoicism. It's a cardinal virtue. Let's talk about some daily practices for rebelling against the body, though. So let's say you're on board. Let's do this. Let's rebel against the body. Let's fight our desires when it's a good thing. Let's give in to them every now and then, which is fine too in a balanced lifestyle. How can we best design our day and week such that we properly rebel and manage our bodily desires? When it comes to hunger, it's important that you put a focus on eating healthy food and in the right proportions. Don't eat too much, don't eat too little, and eat the right kinds of foods. That doesn't mean that you never eat any junk food. I certainly do. I'm recording this on November 1st. Yesterday was Halloween, man, and let me tell you, I snacked on the treats that the kids didn't take. It's okay. But it can't be a main staple of your diet. So today, no, I'm not going to touch any of that stuff. A good rule of thumb, if you're new to this, have a cheat day a week or have 2 cheat days a week if you're really new, where you can just eat junk. You can really eat whatever you want. But generally, try and have like 80% of your diet good, healthy food. And I'm not going to get into what constitutes good, healthy food because that's a really big rabbit hole that we can spend hours on. However, I would also add that this is a very interesting tool that you might want to try. It's intermittent fasting. It's a tremendously valuable habit. I've been doing this for 6-7 years now at this point. Basically what this means, it's called intermittent fasting. If you missed that, you don't eat for 16 hours a day and then you have an 8-hour eating window. So simply, for me, I keep it simple. I normally start eating around 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. or so. And then I stop eating at about, 8 p.m. or maybe 9 p.m., 10 p.m., depending on when I started. But I try and have an 8-hour eating window, and that doesn't mean I'm eating the whole time, but what it means is that's sort of the window that I'm able to eat, and then the other 16 hours, 8 of which I'm sleeping anyway, I am not eating. So it's. I know it sounds hard because you might be used to getting up and eating breakfast right away, but guess what? That's once you get into it, it's not that hard at all, and you can actually drink a little bit of black coffee. If you drink it black, you can have that while fasting, and it'll quench your hunger actually. And I know what you're thinking, I know what you're saying, but isn't breakfast the most important meal of the day? Listen, who said that breakfast was the most important meal of the day? Where did you read that? Because you probably read it on a cereal box. That's marketing. That's the best, smartest damn marketing that anyone has ever done because that's all people say is that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Anyways, I digress and I digest. Little joke there for you. This practice is a daily reminder, this intermittent fasting, that my hunger is not in charge. I am in charge. And I don't need to be eating all the time to be happy. It's good. It's a good practice to do. I've been doing it and I can't imagine ever stopping intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for 6 years now. I absolutely love it. It's great. Keeps me on point. gives me like a success every day, because it means I haven't, if I don't eat until 12, that's a success. That means I fought hunger for, since I woke up. Exercising regularly is another great way of rebelling against the body. I highly recommend this. This is the Strong Stoic Podcast, and part of what that means is that I'm a strength athlete and I love exercising. Keeping your mind sharp, though, is one of the least... people always think that physical exercise is good for the physical body, and it is, of course, but it's really for the mind. It's all about keeping your mind sharp. I did a whole episode on Stoicism and exercise. Go check that out. 5 days a week is a good rule of thumb. No, it doesn't mean you have to go sprinting up a hill 5 days a week. It doesn't mean you have to, squat 400 pounds every week or 5 days a week. It just means go out and get some exercise, 30 minutes to an hour, 5 days a week. That's a pretty damn good rule of thumb. Try and make 3 of them strength exercises if you can, or at least incorporate some resistance training into that. You don't need to go do 5 grueling CrossFit sessions 5 days a week, but get out and get moving. Go for a walk, lift some weights. Move regularly. Tell yourself you're going to do it, and do it. And if you do that, that's every day, again, something, or 5 out of 7 days, 5 days a week, where you're achieving something that's actually difficult. Imagine that. Imagine if you can look back in a year and say, God damn, for 5 days a week for the last year, I did something difficult. And if you're intermittent fasting, that's 2 things that are difficult. Those are 2 things that you're listening to right now that might be like, damn, that actually sounds pretty challenging. But anything is possible. You just have to develop the habits. When you choose to go to the gym regularly, you're reminding your body that your mind is in charge and that you don't care that it wants to be lazy. You know better. You're wise. You're virtuous. You're going to get up. You're going to do the work anyway. That's what a Stoic does. Here's a quote from Seneca. The body should be treated more rigorously that it may not be... Sorry, I'm gonna try that again. The body should be treated more rigorously that it may not be disobedient to the mind. Seneca. Finally, my last little piece of practical advice here. I hope you're taking notes. Finally, resist that pull to short-term pleasure, such as picking up your phone and scrolling through Instagram every 5 minutes. God damn, how many days have I wasted personally doing that? Just, you have these days sometimes where you're always reaching for your phone. You're always wanting to, you get that need, that desire to pick up Instagram. The reason you're doing that is because it gives you a little dopamine hit, and it gives you just a tiny little bit of happiness. And so when you're feeling a little bored, or when you get down for 5 seconds, you grab your phone, you get a little dopamine hit. The problem with that, as the Stoics knew for a very long time, is that exhausts your dopamine circuits, and it deregulates it to the point where you can't have a baseline of happiness in your life. So that's not a good idea to be doing that every 5 minutes. It's hard, I know. But there's some simple things you can try and do to make this easier. If you're struggling with this, which all of us do, let's be honest, today, that have cell phones, we all struggle with being on it a bit too much. For one, don't charge your phone in your bedroom at night. Charge it in another room and get an alarm clock, or place it in a room where you can still hear the alarm. This will stop you from... This will stop the same thing as, like, you scroll, because you get up in the morning. What do you want to do? You want to grab your phone and lay in bed and scroll. Well, that's 2 things. First, it'll stop you from laying in bed longer than you should. And second, it will save you time because you're not scrolling through Facebook. So there's, two birds with one stone on that one. Likewise, try and not look at your phone about 45 minutes to an hour before bed. That light that screens give you, that actually keeps you awake at night. And it's more than that. If you look at a screen, if you look at screen light or any kind of light too much in the evening, like in the late hours of the night, 9 to 10, 11 p.m., in that range, it actually has been shown to make you more depressed. So it's not a good idea. Stop it right now. You'll sleep better and you'll feel better and you'll be better. Stop trying to grab your phone every 5 minutes in the day, and try this. If you're struggling with this a lot, just try this. See if you can set a goal of 10 times a day when you go to reach for your phone, you don't. Now, if you got to answer a text, if you got to answer a phone call, that's something else. But if you're going there to do something unproductive, try like 10 times a day to, when you feel your hand go for that phone, stop. And at the same time, you can always scroll through Facebook a little bit, scroll through Instagram, allow some time for some death scrolling, but fight that impulse at least 10 times a day. It'll really keep those dopamine circuits tuned up. Rebelling against the body may seem like a rebellion against yourself, because in some ways it is. It's your body after all. But if anything, it's a rebellion against the weaker version of yourself. And that's the part of yourself that you want to destroy. That's the part of yourself that you should hate, that weaker version of yourself. You might have to incorporate it, but certainly you don't want to love it. You don't want your weaker self to become stronger. Isn't that a weird way of saying it? But you know what I mean. You don't want your weaker self to manifest itself more in your life. You want to shun that side. You want to not be a coward because you want to be courageous. You are not your desires, but you are how you deal with those desires and how and when you allow them, and allow yourself, rather, to give in to them. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you like this episode, consider leaving a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. If you're new here, episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, solo episodes and guest episodes. Check me out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all the social medias, YouTubes as well. Not going to bug you guys anymore. Thanks again. Cheers. Until next time.